One of the first realizations when it comes to suffering is that suffering exists. It is apparent and it is experienced by all different types of people on earth, right? Suffering and pain and misery are going to exist. And it is because human nature is imperfect, which means the world that we live in is imperfect as well. And so during our lifetimes, it is inevitable that we will experience multiple periods of suffering. And that's okay, because the first step in promoting compassion to others is realizing that disappointments and suffering are going to happen. This can be through physical pain. Perhaps you break a bone in your body and you go to the doctor and they have to set it in a cast. That's painful. That's going to happen. It could be the passing of a loved one, right? One of the things that we realize in our practice is that everything is temporary, and that's including life as we come to accept it and experience it on a daily basis. It could be the breakup of you and your significant other. That's suffering as well. Suffering isn't always just the physical attributes that we come to think about when we're at work, or we are not getting a promotion at work, for example, or maybe we overcook our food. Those kind of events can also be considered suffering. And it's because human nature is imperfect. Perhaps you forgot to look at the timer on your oven and you overcook your food, or perhaps you thought you were doing a really good job at work, but somebody else may have been performing slightly above you, or maybe they're friends. Maybe that other person who got promoted and your supervisor, maybe they're friends. There's all kinds of reasons why suffering exists in our world. So how do we manage to promote compassion towards others? When we experience suffering, we integrate that feeling within ourselves. And so when we are able to recognize how suffering, in whatever sense or whatever event is come to us, but when we recognize that feeling, we are able to understand how someone else feels when that event or when a negative situation arrives and presents itself to that other person. So we can identify with how that other person is feeling at that particular time. And that is one of the first steps in promoting compassion towards one another in a world that is filled with suffering. When we look at the images that we see here on this slide, or even in the world around us, we see people that are in various stages or various degrees of suffering. Someone has lost their homes or their village or their town due to some natural disaster. People are waiting in line for food, one of the basic necessities of life. We even see a gentleman who is experiencing suffering from someone else yelling at him through an incident of road rage. People who are incarcerated, whether they're justly or unjustly incarcerated, they too are experiencing suffering. Person losing a job, feeling despair, may not even be as a result of something that he is directly responsible for. It might not even be a result of his performance. It could be the company downsizing, and he is suffering because maybe he has a family to provide for, or at the very least he has to provide for himself. And war is an extreme example of people suffering throughout the world. Conflict between two peoples, usually over something that's not very important. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it is over something that is super important, or trying to protect the rights of others. But no matter what, there's always going to be the innocent bystanders who have nothing to do with people fighting or these wars that are going on. For example, the civilians in Hiroshima and Nagasaki with the droppings of the atomic bomb. Those people, some of those civilians were just fishermen or office workers, mailmen. No particular direct involvement, but yet they were forced to experience suffering. So what we can do to help promote suffering in a world that's filled with suffering is to understand what self-compassion is. We can have the self-compassion for ourselves. So how we can begin to understand is, for compassion is to have that same compassion for ourselves as we do for others. Right? Some of these images that you see, maybe they make you feel a certain way. Maybe they make you feel sad or something. And recognize those. Recognize that other person suffering. Don't look away. Don't shy away. Remember, interbeing, we are all connected. And so, have the compassion towards ourselves as we would with others. Being aware of how we are feeling is an important component to self-compassion. Remember, it's not self-pity, right? Oh, woe is me. I lost my job, or the neighbors are arguing next door and I feel sorry for their children, right? It's not self-pity, nor is it self-indulgent. Oh, woe is me, something negative has happened to me. Let me go out to a bar and drown my sorrows. Nor is it self-esteem. Right? Nor is it self-esteem. Right? We can't let suffering that is inevitable diminish our abilities to have compassion for someone else. So remember, when we are easing someone else's suffering, we are not making it disappear. We are making it easier for them to cope and to handle with the suffering, the experience that they are feeling. And then finally, when you feel compassion for another, right, it means you are realizing that suffering or that failure and that imperfection is a part of the shared experience that we all as human beings will be a part of. So how do we promote self-compassion so that we can help others? One of the first steps or considerations to adopt is by accepting your feelings as yours. I am feeling sad because of. I am feeling angry because of. I am feeling lost because of. Just the power of accepting these feelings begins the process of self-compassion towards ourselves, and that compassion, that compassionate response towards others. So don't bury those feelings. When you are feeling sad, acknowledge that you are feeling sad. When you are angry, acknowledge that you are feeling angry. We don't take them out on someone else. And we certainly don't take that anger or that sadness on us. Remember, it's not self-pity, and we don't self-indulge. So accepting our feelings as ours, belonging to us, they are a wonderful part of us. The very fact that we even have feelings is such a miracle. It's such a wonderful way for us to experience the world. If every day is a sunny day, then what is a sunny day? And so, also don't compare yourself with others. Someone else who may have experienced the same situation as you, they may display their emotions differently than you. It's not to say that they are not feeling that sense of loss or that sense of anger or despair that you are. But don't compare. Your feelings are wonderful because they belong to you, and no one else can feel them but you. And if it's hard or painful, acknowledge this situation is hard. This situation is painful. Again, that's accepting your feelings as yours. They belong to you. And so, this is a wonderful way to begin that self-compassion, because when we can recognize how we are feeling, we can identify and we can relate to how someone else is feeling. Imagine that person who may be sitting on the side of the road or some street corner asking for change. Understand that that person may be feeling lost. They may be feeling that sense of despair. They may be feeling angry towards society, perhaps, for allowing them to create the conditions or the social circumstances for them to be in their particular situation. And you can use that as an opportunity to reflect upon your own experiences when you felt that sense of despair or loss or anger or confusion. And that will bring you closer to yourself and to that other person who is experiencing a difficult time. And it's also important to take a balanced approach to your feelings. Don't exaggerate negative emotions. Perhaps if you did lose your job, it's unfair to think of, oh, I'll never get another job again. Perhaps there was a breakup with you and a significant other saying that, oh, no one will ever love me ever again. Don't exaggerate those negative emotions. Again, accept them for what they are. Don't bury them. And don't compare yourself with others. And either one of those situations are certainly hard. So acknowledge that this situation is hard. This situation is painful. Remember, your emotions belong to you. They are or wonderful part of you that allows you to experience and to connect with the world in your own special way. So don't bury them. Acknowledge them, and sit with them. Thank you for spending time with us today, and this audio presentation has been a production of the Blue Lotus Mindfulness Meditation Center here in Brainerd, Minnesota. I wish you all a peaceful and a day filled with tranquility, and I look forward to having you join us again on our next talk. Thank you very much.